I didn't believe in long-distance relationships. Not theoretically, not practically, not in any version of reality I had constructed for myself growing up in a small town in Serbia. The idea that you could build something real with someone on the other side of the planet, someone you had never touched, never sat beside, never watched order food or navigate a strange street, seemed like something people told themselves to avoid admitting they were alone. I was wrong. But I didn't know that yet. When I first read her profile, something she had written stopped me. I don't remember the exact words, but I remember the feeling that this person believed in something, and that I wanted to understand what. 8 months later, I was on a bus to Belgrade, then a plane to Istanbul, then Bangkok, then a small domestic flight to a city in northeastern Thailand most people in Europe have never heard of. Almost 9,000 kilometers from the town that made me. To meet someone I had never touched in person. The distance sounds romantic in retrospect. In practice, it was a bus, 2 planes, 1 night alone in Bangkok to rest before the final flight, and the particular anxiety of someone who had spent 8 months on video calls wondering whether any of it would survive contact with reality. A camera is a generous instrument. It softens, it frames, it gives you the best angle of a person in good light. What it cannot give you is the actual person, their physical presence, the way they move through a space, the specific quality of their attention when they look at you directly, without a screen between you. 8 months of calls, every day, every evening, watching films together through group watch apps, learning each other's rhythms across time zones and languages and 8,000 kilometers of ocean and land. And still, I didn't know what would happen when the doors opened. I didn't know if what we had built across a screen could survive the moment it became real. The doors of the arrivals hall opened. I saw her from about 20 meters away. I raised my hand so she could find me in the crowd. And in that moment, something I had not expected happened. She was more beautiful in person than on any camera. Not differently beautiful, more. As if the screen had been giving me an approximation. And here, finally, was the actual person. She walked over and took my hand. 8 months, almost 9,000 kilometers, 3 planes, and a night alone in Bangkok. And we were nervous, the way you are nervous when something real is finally happening, and you don't want to be the reason it goes wrong. I had been worried about the climate, the food, whether my body would adapt to a world it had never known. None of that happened the way I feared. What I hadn't prepared for was how much I was about to learn. Not about Thailand, about myself. My girlfriend grew up in a village in Isan, the northeastern region of Thailand. She has lived inside this culture her entire life. Its logic, its customs, its unspoken rules, all of it invisible to her because she is made of it. Walking through markets, she noticed things I simply could not see. She recognized workers from Myanmar by something in their accent, their manner. I saw people. She saw a story of migration written in their faces. She explained the nominee system, how a foreigner who wants to own a business in Thailand must have a Thai national hold the majority share on paper. A legal architecture I had walked past without seeing. She told me that in Thailand, giving money as a gift is not impersonal. It is respectful. It says, I trust you to know your own needs better than I do. In Serbia, in most of Europe, giving money as a gift can feel like a replacement for thought, like you couldn't be bothered. 2 completely opposite values, both invisible, until you meet someone carrying the other one. She told me about the morning shower, a ritual instilled in Thai children from their earliest school days, every morning, without exception, fresh and prepared for the day. not a personal habit, a cultural one, passed down, not by choice, but by place. I started to understand something the first episode of this series had only gestured toward. You cannot see the assumptions a place has given you until you meet someone running on completely different ones. I wasn't learning about Thailand. I was learning, for the first time, how Serbian I actually am. She took me to a Buddhist sanctuary along the road, a long procession of elephant figures, each one placed there by someone whose wish had been fulfilled. She told me that those who receive what they prayed for must return and leave an elephant, a debt of gratitude, paid in stone and faith. She wanted me to perform the ritual with her. I think she believed, in the way her culture had taught her to believe, that we were there for a reason, that what had brought us across 9,000 kilometers was not entirely coincidence. The ritual involves shaking a container of numbered sticks, slowly, patiently, until one falls out on its own. That number leads you to a paper that tells you something about your path. She demonstrated first, calm, deliberate. One stick fell. Then I tried. I threw them all across the floor at once. She looked at the sticks scattered around my feet, then at me. Then she started laughing. She collected them, handed them back, and showed me again. Slowly, slowly. The second time, one fell. She found the paper, read it, translated it for me. And I stood there, holding a message about my own future, delivered through a ritual I had failed to perform correctly, in a language I couldn't read, in a temple I didn't fully understand, completely dependent on her to tell me what it meant. That moment, more than any conversation, more than any philosophical insight, is when I understood what the first episode of this series was actually about. You cannot understand a country by visiting it. You begin to understand it when you know someone it built. And you cannot understand yourself until someone built by a completely different place holds up a mirror you didn't know existed. She showed me a world I could not have accessed alone. Food markets of a kind I had never seen, fresh, abundant, chaotic with color and smell and variety, completely unlike anything in Serbian or European cooking. I tried Korean food for the first time in my life. I tried to eat it with chopsticks. I failed at that too. Traffic that runs on different logic entirely. Look right first, not left. Intersections with no pedestrian signals where you read the lights meant for cars and calculate your own moment to cross. Sidewalks that aren't designed for walking the way European pavements are. Places where you share the road with scooters and you learn quickly to pay attention. 7-Eleven stores that operate on a system I didn't understand until she walked me through it. A convenience store that is somehow also a kitchen, a post office, a social space. A different philosophy of what convenience means. And people everywhere, genuinely kind. Not performing kindness for tourists, simply kind, in the way a place can make its people kind, when it builds them that way from the beginning. I had been afraid of feeling isolated without the language, but isolation requires anonymity to be painful. And I was not anonymous. I was with her, and through her, I was connected to something I could never have reached alone. I came home having learned Thai, slowly, at the beginning. Grammar, writing, the script that looks nothing like any alphabet I had ever studied. I am still learning, but something shifted on this trip that I want to name carefully, because I think it matters beyond the story of two people across a long distance. I was skeptical about all of it. Long distance, the journey. Whether someone from a small town in Serbia had any business falling for someone from a village in northeastern Thailand. But something she wrote made me believe it was worth trying. And in trying, I pushed my own limits further than I had ever pushed them. Further than I thought I could. Not the physical distance. That is just kilometers. The real distance was internal. Between the person I was when I started, certain about what was possible, and the person I became when I stopped being certain. People everywhere are fundamentally the same. They want connection. They want to be understood. They worry about the future and love their families and find ways to be kind even when life makes it difficult. But the specific rituals, the particular customs, the daily textures of how they live those universal things, those are different, fascinatingly, endlessly different. And you cannot access that difference through travel alone. You access it through a person. The first episode of this series asked whether places create who we are. I believe they do. But this episode taught me something the first one couldn't. That the most powerful way to understand the place that built you is to love someone built by a completely different one. She is still there. I am still here. Almost 9,000 kilometers between us, the same distance as before, and somehow much shorter than it used to be. We are still exploring what this is and what it can become. But I know this much. I am not the same person who got on that bus to Belgrade. And the town that made me will have to make room for everything I brought back. The third episode of this series asks the question that comes after all of this. Not what the places we come from built inside us, not what happens when we leave them, but why. Long after we've left, we still dream about them. That's where this continues.